Welcome back to Grand Strand today, friends. We're live at the Georgetown County Historical Museum here in Georgetown. And right now, we're taking you through the history of Frances Marion. It's a focal point when you enter the museum. Joining me right now is Paige. Paige, tons to uncover. We're taking things all the way back to the 1700s, and we find ourselves in a really significant spot. Take us through what we're looking at.
Yes, ma'am. Here is a mannequin of Frances Marion. You can see he was rather short. He was only 5 feet 2 inches tall. He was the sixth child of his parents. He had four brothers and one sister, and he was the youngest. He was actually born with malformed knees and ankles, so he walked with a limp. So he wasn't a very imposing military figure. Now, his best friend was Oscar, who was an enslaved companion of Frances. Oscar was considerably taller. Oscar did everything with Frances. He helped him prepare for camp. He helped him when the fighting was going on. Oscar, Frances called him Buddy because he was his best buddy. So they were buddies throughout the war.
Oh, wow.
Now, Frances Marion, he was actually born in Berkeley County in 1732, about 60 miles from here. When he was a young lad, about 3 or 4 years old, his family moved to Georgetown, and he lived here for about 20 years. So he claimed Georgetown as his home. We claim it as he's a homeboy also, so we're glad to have Frances Marion with us. Frances Marion was very instrumental in helping us win the American Revolutionary War. South Carolina had more skirmishes and battles than any other colony, and had it not been for South Carolina, we wouldn't have had Cornwallis surrender at Yorktown.
Wow, and it's so interesting to see exactly what they would have looked like so many years ago.
That's right.
As we head over, we're going to find a significant piece of history. This is so interesting, Paige. Tell us what we're looking at down here. This
is a letter written in 1782 from General Nathaniel Greene, who was Frances Marion's commander. And Frances Marion, at the time the letter was written, was down in Monk's Corner. And he's asking Frances Marion to get back to Georgetown because there are supplies there that he needs. So this is a letter from General Greene to Frances Marion and Frances Marion's response. So this is a very rare letter. We're one of the few places that has an actual letter with Frances Marion's signature. It was given to the Georgetown Historical Society back in the 1950s, and it was found on Windsor Plantation here in Georgetown by a Mrs. Mills, whose family owned Windsor Plantation. And she gave it to the Georgetown Historical Society at that time. Unfortunately, we did not have a museum at that time, so members of the Historical Society, any artifacts or relics that they had, they kept in their homes or in a safe place. And then finally in 2005, we got a museum that was 1 block away, and this is when this letter was found at that time when they were going through the inventory.
That is so interesting, dating all the way back to 1782. My
Yes,
goodness.
ma'am.
And if we take a look at the wall here, we're kind of going to see the timeline of Frances Marion's life. Take us through some of the interesting pieces.
Well, you can see here it says the father of guerrilla warfare. Frances Marion, he was in the Cherokee War, and that's where he learned the guerrilla warfare from the Indians. The Indians, they would attack large groups of the British late at night, before dawn, hit and run tactics. You know, they would run, they would scare you, they would hit and run, and then they disappeared. Small bands of Indians. Frances Marion, even though he was fighting the Indians, he learned those techniques, and he kept those in his mind. And then when the American Revolutionary War started, he had a small band of followers, and they did the same thing with the British, and they were very successful with those tactics. So had it not been for Frances Marion and the guerrilla warfare, here again, South Carolina was very instrumental in winning that war. This image you see over here, Frances Marion and a British officer, they were exchanging POWs, and the British officer, Frances Marion, asked him to stay for supper. Now, keep in mind, they're hiding out in the woods. They have very little to eat except for squirrels, possums, raccoon, whatever they can shoot and kill. And they always had a large supply of sweet potatoes. So Francis Marion asked him to stay and have sweet potatoes. Now you can see Oscar Marion behind the horse. That's Francis Marion's horse, and Oscar is taking care of the horse while they're being fed. Now the British officer, he was so astounded that the menu was so limited. He said, "Wow, this is all you have to eat?" And Francis Marion said, "Yes, but we're really blessed tonight because we have a few more sweet potatoes, so we can give you another one. Please enjoy." The British officer was so amazed at the dedication of the Francis Marion and his militia that he said, "You know, somebody this dedicated to the cause, we will never beat them." And the British officer went home and resigned from the British military.
Wow, so much history, Paige. Thank you so much. That's our time. There's more to see here
Oh,
at
yes,
the
ma'am.
Georgetown County Museum, and you can see it yourselves, friends. We still have much more headed your way. We'll be right back after this.